10 years after the mass abduction of 275 Chibok schoolgirls in Borno State, little has changed in the region as kidnapping has continued unabated. The ongoing violence has cast a long shadow over education of the girls in particular, now further limiting the possibilities in a part of the country already marked by vastly higher rates of poverty, illiteracy, as the girl and child marriage also continues. Now, on this show today, we will examine how kidnapping has cast a shadow over Nigeria's education system, especially in the northern region. But before we delve into the conversation proper, we have a summary for you in this intro package. Take a listen.
During the night of April 14, 2014, dozens of fighters from the Boko Haram terrorist group stormed a school dormitory of girls in the remote town of Chibok, a small Christian enclave in Nigeria's majority Muslim north. The 276 schoolgirls, mostly aged between 16 and 18, were herded at gunpoint through the forest to waiting trucks as the militants set fire on the school buildings. Within hours of the abductions, 57 girls managed to escape. Little was heard of the remaining girls in the following years, with 2 girls found between May and September 2016. But then came several mass releases brokered by the International Red Cross and the Swiss government, reportedly as part of a prisoner swap. More than 100 girls have since been freed, while over 80 of the abductees are still unaccounted for. Since the Chibok abduction in April 2014, at least 1,500 students have been kidnapped as armed groups increasingly find in them a lucrative way to fund their crimes and control villages in the country's northwestern region. In February 19, 2018, Boko Haram abducted 110 schoolgirls from a girls' science college in the Yobe town of Dapo in northeastern Nigeria. Nearly all were later released, but 5 of the girls were killed. In December 11, 2020, gunmen on motorcycles attacked a government science secondary school in the Katsina State town of Kankara, abducting more than 300 boys. They were released 6 days later following negotiations. On February 17, 2021, gunmen attacked a science college in the Niger State town of Kagara at night and abducted 27 students, 3 staff members, and others. Less than 2 weeks later, gunmen stormed government secondary boarding school in Jangebe, Zamfara State, abducting more than 300 schoolgirls after apparent payment of ransom. In March 11, 2021, gunmen abducted 39 students from the Federal College of Forestry Mechanization in Kaduna State town of Afaka. In April 20, 2021, armed men attacked the private Greenfield University in Kaduna State and abducted at least 20 students. July 5, 2021, gunmen kidnapped more than 100 students from the Bethel Baptist High School in the Chikun area of Kaduna State. March 7, 2024, gunmen riding motorcycles kidnapped 287 students at the government secondary school in the Kaduna State town of Kuriga. March 9, 2024, armed men broke into a boarding school in Gidambakuso village in Sokoto State and seized 15 children as they slept. Kidnapping for ransom has become a fast-growing lucrative business amid rising poverty and unemployment levels in the country, with school children often targeted, thereby impacting the country's education sector.
So that was rather a chronology of some of the very unfortunate incidents surrounding kidnapping and, of course, abduction, particularly of school children across the nation, Nigeria, over time. Well, joining me in the studio right now to make sense of this particular very unfortunate trend, if at all, is Elvis Akpobi, the Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative. Thank you for joining, Elvis.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being in your studio live today.
All right. Most times we discuss virtually, but it's great to have you physically. Well, also I have Yahuza Getso, Security Intelligence Professional, who is joining virtually. Yahuza, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody in the studio.
All right, great. Now, let me start off with you, Elvis. It's been a decade since the Chibok abduction. Any takeaways so far? Lessons learned, improvement?
Lessons learned, no improvement, I would say. Owing to the fact that, for me, I believe the main business of government is to protect life and properties, create an enabling environment for people. We can't be scared in our own land. The Chibok girls issue came as a shock that a huge number of girls were kidnapped. There's a car was driven. They passed through a particular place. Do you get? And today it seems like it's a movie. Let's not forget too that the enthusiasm for the protest against it, it trended hashtag free Chibok girls and all that. It reduces, and owing to the fact that it still did not stop, it was politicized because I would want to say it was during the administration of Goodluck Jonathan. We had advocates who are now muted because the energy put then with that hashtag, even the international community. I have seen pictures of the former First Lady of America with a plaque, Free Chibok Girls.
I mean, back then it was all over the world.
It happened like I think a year or two to elections, the 2015 elections, I may be wrong. A year, right?
Yes.
And to an extent, it was politicized. The protest was politicized. If it wasn't, what I'm saying this is...
It was politicized?
Yes. What I'm saying, the protest then, what I'm saying this is, the momentum put then during that election, and the momentum, the enthusiasm for the protest put now is quite different. Of recent, about officers who had such issues, they were meant to understand that they were released and no ransom was paid. How come within 10 years there is no space of change? Leaders who felt they value the lives of citizens, then activists who felt they value the lives of Nigerians, that they were so passionate about Chibok girls, how come we didn't see? A handful of them have now rolled into power and it's still reoccurring, meaning there's something wrong. Meaning that statement in the Constitution that says it's the sole duty of the government to provide lives and properties, that clause seems to be overwhelming those piloting the affairs of this state, and we need to look of this country, and we need to look into it.
All right, let's take the opinion of Yahuza on this one. Yahuza, it's almost a decade right now, talking about the Chibok abduction, a decade actually, since the Chibok abduction. For you, what would you consider the takeaways in terms of lessons learned, and if at all there's any form of improvement to ensure that Nigeria doesn't experience such anymore?
There are 7 outline issues that we need to look at. 1, the capacity of our personnel. 2, the issue of corruption around the cycle of managing the security in Nigeria. And 3, the issue of performing and underperforming and the reasons behind that of all our both armed forces and all other security apparatus. And 4, the level of cooperation, partnership, collaboration between the security agencies, the government, as well as the pressure groups. And number 5, the interest, the politicking, the partake, the kind of interference by international community. What were the inputs and what were the results? And then number 6, we have to look at the total amount of money being imputed into the security activity from that 10 years to date and even beyond. So, and how effective and what were the results? And have we been able to achieve that? And then number 7, the political will by both political administrators, the leadership quality in the security agencies, the often changes between the service chiefs and the performance-based activities. And then finally, if we have number 8, who are really these abductors, who are really these kidnappers, are they foreigners? Are they having a foreign machinery support? Are they really working alone? And where have they been hiding? Do we really have a thick forest that we cannot diagnose and lead to destroying the camp and ability of these kidnappers to kind of bring it to an end? And the key is, how are they accessing the social need and operational needs? When I say the social need, I'm referring to their day-to-day requisitions for survival in the forest and the places where they are keeping 100 and above number of girls that were kidnapped at Jengebe, were kidnapped at Kankara, were kidnapped at recently in Kaduna, were kidnapped in Chibok, were kidnapped in Dafchi, were kidnapped in many other places that they could launch their activities. And where do they get the training, the capacity and capability of attacking our trained military personnel? Have we really been able to provide the required social need and operational support and equipment and gadgets as at when due? And finally, what is really the total number of personnel we have, and what is the total required personnel that we're supposed to have based on the trend of the challenges that we have in the country? So in fact, we could have been able to bring an end to this menace, and I believe, sincerely and honestly, that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration have taken a bold step that if the government sustain what they have started and how they have been working hard, I think we are coming to either an end to this menace, or rather, we are going to squash it down to the maximum barrage level if we sustain the tempo of what the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu government started. Especially looking at the commitment, the dedication, the persuasion, and the translation of words into action by the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and the Chief of Navy Staff, especially looking at what happened recently in the last 6 to 14 days, around the areas of Sokoto, Zamfara, Kebbi, Kaduna, Katsina, which we can consider as the major stronghold of these kidnappers, by extension also Niger and Kogi State, Benue, Nasarawa, and others. So I believe that we are really moving very slowly, but we are being handcuffed by lack of inadequate personnel, lack of modern armaments, and the inability to manage the bilateral and the multilateral interference in respect to the situation on ground.
Bilateral and multilateral interference with the situation on ground. I will come back to you, Yahuza, but let me go to Elvis right now. Let's look at the implication or the fallout of many of these abductions. Let's pick it, by piecemeal. Let's start with education. There's a fear that the amount of out-of-school children, as a result of these attacks, those abducted who find it hard going back to school anymore, parents being, apprehensive of sending their children to schools for fear of abduction. There's this fear that in the future, particularly in some parts of Nigeria, the statistics when it comes to education, out-of-school children is alarming. As a matter of fact, according to a particular organization, it's gave the statistics as pretty much alarming. I'd like to know exactly what Nigeria, are we sitting on a time bomb? When it comes to this particular scenario.
Growing up, we're told that education is the key to success. There were times where we advocated for free, quality education. Lately in the North, what I think we should be advocating for is free, quality, safe education. Education where young people can gain admission into these schools and be safe. where parents can send their children to school, and when calls comes in from their principal, the proprietors and all that, it should be a call. They won't be apprehensive that what is happening. They should take it as a call for excellence for their children. But lately, a lot of parents have withdrawn their kids from school in that area, and one way or the other, it will affect the growth and development of our state, of our country, owing to the fact that when people are not educated, they become very, very vulnerable. And when they are vulnerable, crime rate increases. It disrupts the growth of our society.
I mean, Elvis, just to give a bit of what I call it specifics to this, and an idea of how bad the situation might be. According to data analysis by Save the Children Foundation, reviews that attacks on schools have continued behind public glare. The surge highlighted that violence that school children and teachers face from across Nigeria, in addition to abduction, over 180 school children were killed and nearly 90 injured in 70 attacks between April 2014 and December 2022.
Yes.
We are in 2023. We know that some have already. That wasn't even factored in. With an estimated 60 school staff kidnapped and 14 killed. I mean, when you see statistics like this, it makes you wonder, how dire this situation is.
It's quite unfortunate. I feel half annoyed and overwhelmed with shame, owing to the fact that the government have allocated a lot of money to security. Fine, our security chiefs are, to an extent, I have to commend them, while I still want to encourage and commend the president, mostly because of the few that were adopted and kidnapped. We're meant to understand that they didn't pay any ransom. That's a story for another day. But the fact remains that we contracted governance with our votes to Mr. President to secure lives and properties. In as much as we encourage him, we did not contract governance to him to make excuses. I think he has the experience. He has appointed the right people as security heads.
Has he appointed the right people?
I presume so.
With what we are seeing on ground, would you say that
they'll always come out to defend themselves? Where I'm driving at is, they were not appointed or elected for excuses. They were appointed, they were elected, the president was elected to protect lives and properties of Nigeria, and that's what we are expecting.
All right. I think I would leave that particular part, as regards, if at all, the right people, when it comes to the security architecture in Nigeria, are in place to actually do a fantastic job. But I'll leave Yahuza to respond to that after this break. Stay with us. This is still Secure the Continent on News Central Television, and of course we are x-raying the a decade-long Chibok girls abduction, which has caused a lot of international conversation and stirred quite a number of reactions. Even though we know that some of those girls, are back home, quite a number of them too are still believed to be, still in abduction. But we still have in the studio with us Elvis Akpobi, Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative, and also Yahuza Getso, who joins virtually, Security Intelligence Professional. Once again, gentlemen, thank you for hanging on.
It's a pleasure.
All right. Let me move to Yahuza right now. Looking at the current statistics when it comes to abductions, particularly, let's say, since the Chibok abduction, owing down to this current administration, do you think that we have finally gotten it right in terms of appointing the right professionals to ensure that Nigerians are safe at the security helm?
Well, the answer is yes and no. Why I said yes is because the present security service chiefs, looking at the Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, and the Chief of Air Staff, and the Chief of Defense Staff, you can say that the right persons are really given the right mandate. But the question is, have they been provided with the enabling environment? And when you go down to the state levels, in some cases, the state governors have also appointed some of the right persons, retired military, retired directors of the SSS, retired this, retired that, as well as other experts who really know the job. But the question, have they been provided with an enabling environment, or are they going to be provided with an enabling environment in terms of personnel and other things? It is very clear and very glaring that the total number of personnel that we have in the country, both military and non and paramilitary, all of them are not up to 25 at maximum speed of the total requirement of the security personnel we should have.
Sorry, I'm sorry to cut in here. Is it a situation of lack of personnel or the absence of willpower? Why am I saying this? So, I mean, we've seen videos. It's funny how the internet, you see almost anything these days on the internet. There have been videos of alleged, bandits who, there was one that was particularly trending where it was alleged that a bandit was lying down in a pile of ransom that he collected. There was also another one I saw that were, in a praying ground, observing, the end of fast celebration. And they posted it on the internet, right? And then you're asking the question, if these people have so much effrontery to do that, why is nothing happening in terms of, rounding them up and, ensuring that justice takes its course? Instead, we are seeing a situation where someone sprays money and then they are locking the person up for 6 months.
In the earlier statement, in the earlier discussion before we go on break, I made mention that these guys are Nigerians. The kidnappers, the bandits, and all the criminals. I made mention this. And I made mention that they are not we don't have any thick forest that is so difficult. I'm an expert on how to reach and difficult terrain, as well as the criminal and criminality therapy, especially in the difficult terrain and hard to reach communities. So it is so glaring. None of these guys is operating outside the radius of 70 kilometers that is outside his or their indigenous communities. So these guys are known. Their locations are known. If there is anything to call hideout, is known. And I have said it, and I am going to repeat myself. I said it time without number, that if government didn't know where these guys are, I know where they are and I know who they are.
You know where they are and you know who they are. Sorry.
Leaders at the respective communities where they are operating, they know who they are and they know where they are. And in 773 local governments that we have in Nigeria, in each of the local government, you have DSS, you have police, you have civil defense, and you have immigration. And none of this classification of the security agencies can tell me that we don't know who are the bandits or we don't know where they are operating. And the question, another question you ask yourself, when they kidnap this number in bulk, how are they moving them? Which, are they using the sky? Or are they using the underground space to take them to where? And where are they keeping them? And how difficult is it for us to have land and air operation like the present administration have started? I want to tell you that I'm becoming most convinced, I'm most confident, based on the operations and the strategy and the approach President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration started in 3 ways. One, there is a lot of improvement in terms of synergy of how the military and paramilitary work, and even how the Nigerian Air Force and Nigerian Navy and Nigerian Army are now working, and how the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, is carrying the kind of the leadership in terms of putting together, and how the Inspector General of Police is working hard to take the lead the process of internal security management, which we lack, which we never experienced before, which became the most difficult part of it.
Sorry, Yahuza, I'm sorry to interject, but I just need to come in here. You said something. You said that you even know where they are and who they are, and that many community members too are aware. So what is holding community, individuals back, like yourself, from approaching security operatives and saying, look, I have intel, I can help, this is what I have, please do something?
I think I want to take you back. From the 2021, I started identifying these communities where illegal arms are being possessed. It doesn't start during Goodluck administration or Obasanjo administration or Abacha administration. Rather, it started long before. So, and if not because I am having an interwoven, a kind of a partnership and collaboration as well as corroboration with the intelligence, I wouldn't have known and be telling you that something have started improving. Because during the Buhari administration, the 8 wasted years, I can tell you that the major challenge Nigeria faces were 3. 1, poor management of corruption within the cycle of the security agencies as alleged. 2, inability of the government to collaborate and partner with people like me and others who know the forest, who know the guys very well, so that they can be dealt with. And 3, government continue to deceive Nigerians that we have been purchasing equipment and machineries, that we are winning, we are succeeding, we are achieving, we are making progress, whereas the progress have not been seen. But I want to tell you, it is as a result of the partnership and collaboration and strengthened corroboration between myself and other security agencies that have revised, Tribal administration have revised the policy of bringing almost every stakeholder into the business. That is how I'm able to provide a lot of intelligence. And as a result of providing those intelligence, the military and the other paramilitary have been able to succeed in launching many attacks and succeeding on the killing many of the notorious, among those notorious, renowned bandit kingpin and so on and so forth.
All right.
So I believe that, like I said, if the government sustain what they started, it's not all about starting, but it is all about sustaining what have been started.
All right.
The interference by bilateral and multilateral must bring to an end. Nigerian government must be a sovereign. Nigeria must be a sovereign state, and Nigerian leadership must be a sovereign leadership. And the fragile group, whosoever is responsible, must be dealt with accordingly.
All right.
Government have said many times that we know the finances, we know who are financing, who are taking the responsibility, who are backing up these guys, but they have not really bring them to the book.
Okay, Yahuza, I'm sorry, I just need to cut in here so that I can allow Elvis speak. But I'm still going to, take you up on some of the things you've said. You talked about the finances, having intel on them, but let me go to Elvis first, and then I would ask you some specifics. Elvis, let's look at the, I call it integration process, particularly of the school kids who were abducted. I was watching a documentary just before we came on air, and one of the girls, who escaped, was talking about how she seemed free while with the captors than being, outside. And that she said that many of the promises they made, to her were not fulfilled. That's by the government. Talking about, we'll make your life better, you go back to school, we'll handle your finances and all of that. It's like she was left abandoned. And there have been cases too where some of these kids that come out find it hard, integrating into the society, not to talk of even going back to school. So, I mean, what do you make of this, and how do you think this challenge can be solved?
I've always said that in most platforms I find myself, I've always said to make progress, we must trust ourselves. If we don't trust the people you've contracted governance to with our votes, if we don't trust the people that make policies for us, we can't make progress. And that's why we are where we are at the moment as Nigerians. If for a young girl in a supposed proud Nigeria doesn't trust the government, you can see how negatively that reflects about us, even to the Western world. That most of the promises made, because it seems as if there's a kind of governance that is going on in our country today, show and tell. There's this passion to show the public, mostly on social media or television, that we are working. Why behind the scene, it seems as if it's a fugazi, nothing is happening. That's a scenario like that where you come out, you see I wouldn't want to mention it, but you come out, you see governors, leaders say, okay, we're going to do this, we'll do that, then you find out that after a few years, you see nothing is happening. That's a case. But for me, I believe that while I still want to, my pain is this thing is declining. The cover of education, the pursuit for education is declining, and it will have a very negative ripple effect in our development. Let's not forget too, the future, I'm of this opinion, the future of Africa is female. And if we're not educating our young girls, we will not have a better future. And this banditry and kidnapping is an hiccup to educating our young girls. So for me, in as much as I want to commend President Bola Tinubu, mostly because of, the measure I'm using is because of the prompt release of the
girls.
Yes. This is not to say we still don't have a long walk to this freedom and security. This is to tap his back to say, okay, you've done well, but there is need to do better. Because the promises during the campaigns and during the election
has to match up.
It has to match up. You said you were going to secure lives and properties. You said you were going to create an enabling environment where I don't need to escape Nigeria to feel safe. And that is what we are asking for, and I think it's not too much to ask for.
All right. Elvis, I might just need to hold you up on that one. We need to go on a quick break. When we return, of course, we will pick up from where we stopped. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. This is still Secure the Continent on News Central Television. Well, we are talking about the Chibok school abduction 10 years after. What are the takeaways? Let me invite Yahuza, back, on. Yahuza, you said quite a number of things, but I want to take you on some specifics that you mentioned. You said that you have intel concerning the location of some of these bandits and even intel on some of their financiers. I don't mind if, of course, you have proof to that, if you can divulge some on the program, and your take on the issue of ransom. Why do you think that in spite of all the efforts that the government is putting in place, it seems like this issue of kidnappings and abduction seems to be on the rise? It seems these guys are even more daring.
No, point of correction, please. I have not said I know their financiers. I said the governments over time have been saying that they know who are the financiers. But for me, I keep saying that I know who they are, and I know where they are, and I know their locations. This is my position, and this is my belief. The issue of ransom, I am never in support of paying ransom. I never advocated for payment of ransom. I will never support payment of ransom, because I believe that once you are paying the ransom, you are doing 7 outline items. 1, you are discouraging our dedicated, agile, committed Nigerian patriotic personnel. 2, you are empowering the capacity of the criminals and criminality. And 3, you are helping in recruiting more number of the criminals, more of the kidnappers, as a result of many other social vices. And then number 4, you are helping the foreign interference, direct and indirect interference, both bilateral and multilateral, in terms of facilitating the process of promoting the armed tradership, the armed transport ship, the armed movement, and the logistics and procurement generally of equipment, both firearms and other machineries that they are using. And then number 6, you are kind of rebuilding the confidence and trust of the criminals that yes, we are in possess of money, we can kidnap, and money in millions and billions is being brought to us, so we can continue the business, and the business is becoming more lucrative. And then finally, which is number 6, you are promoting the corruption, because it is through the payment of the ransom that the unscrupulous element among our personnel both in the military and non-military, as well as the other public interests, as well as other individuals who provide them with health care, provisions and other petroleum, the motorbikes they are using and other things. It is only when the kidnappers have money, which you are paying through the ransom, then they can be able to continue to pay for the services being rendered to them. So I'm against payment of ransom.
Okay.
I will never support payment of ransom. And I don't believe in the idea of payment of ransom. And I believe government should sanction anybody who is found wanting directly or indirectly with any participation in respect to delivery of ransom to the bandits, either in the nearer forest or in the town or through the bank accounts or any other means.
Okay, why do you think sometimes it appears difficult to actually trace these people? Even after ransom is paid, we don't hear, any follow-up in terms of, oh, these guys were traced using technology, maybe their bank accounts, the phone lines they used to make calls and all of that. And just, in addition to that, you said you have an idea based on intelligence gathering, the location of some of these bandits and perpetrators. My question also would be...
All of them.
Huh?
Not some of them, all of them.
All of them. So my question to you also would be, what state or location in Nigeria, has the highest, based on your intelligence, or houses the highest amount of bandits and kidnappers?
Well,
currently,
the reality is that you can say that the operational activity, they are more in Zamfara, Niger, and Katsina within the tricycle border. That is between the areas of Niger, extreme end of Niger, neighboring Zamfara, extreme end of Kebbi, neighboring Niger State, extreme end of Katsina, neighboring Kaduna State, and extreme end of Kaduna State, neighboring Katsina State. Even though this is the major passhole of where they are, but to some extent, they have a scattered kind of settlements in Kano City, in some of the settlements, in some of the local governments in Kano, in some of the areas in the northeastern part of the country and the north central part of the country, because there are many of their hideout locations in Benue, Nasarawa, Plateau, Adamawa, Gombe, as well as even Kano State, Jigawa State, Yobe State, and alike. And I have been providing this information. If anybody want to know more, you can easily go to Google and ask the Google about Yahuza Getso. So probably go to YouTube and go to my Twitter handle.
All right.
You can find all the information, all this I've been providing.
All right.
Even though it's not everything that I put on the social media.
All right, Yahuza, we need to, of course, drop the curtains.
I've been providing useful information.
Okay, Yahuza, I sincerely apologize. Honestly, I would have loved us to continue with you. But I just need to hear from Elvis on this one. Elvis, what do you think is the way forward? 30 seconds.
For me, the way forward should be about placing the service chiefs, knowing why they were appointed, being strategic, placing Nigeria first before their personal interests, owing to the fact that there is a lot of money allocated to that sector because of the insecurity, buying of arms, logistics, and all that. Then let's not forget to motivating those on ground, our agile military men that are securing lives and properties there, because they have families too. When they are motivated, it gives them that we've lost I've lost a friend through these attacks and all that. Let's ask ourselves, the people they left behind, how are they faring? So these are many more we'll consider, and then we should upscale. The presidency should upscale this, that our military men, our security men needs to be motivated mentally, socially, and all that. Then another take home is education is the key to success. Education is the game changer. And the future of Nigeria today is female.
All right.
If they were banditry during the likes of Okonjo-Iweala time, we will not have the World Trade Center.
Well, true.
That zone is blessed with a lot of Okonjo-Iweala.
All right.
Let's flatten the curve of insecurity there, so we'll have more of them in the nearest future.
All right, Elvis Akpobi, Executive Director, Not Too Young to Lead Initiative, and also Yahuza Getso, Security Intelligence Professional, with me, of course, on the show today. Gentlemen, thank you once again for your time.
It's a pleasure, and your studio is very, very conducive. I like the ambience here.
Thank you so much, and we hope to have you again some other time.
Right,
well, that's a wrap on today's episode. In case you missed it, you can always catch up on our YouTube platform. The name is News Central TV. My name is Dapo Adegboye. Stay safe. Bye for now.